Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel for our preview ahead of Real Madrid versus Chelsea, or rather Chelsea versus Real Madrid, the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinal taking place at Stamford Bridge tomorrow night. And I know we played them last year, and I know we got used to playing the latter stages of the Champions League last year, but playing Real Madrid, playing in the Champions League quarterfinal will never just be normal. I feel like it never will be. Maybe for like the Bayern Munichs of this world, maybe the Real Madrids of this world that are always at least in the quarterfinal. Maybe for them, quarterfinal is a bit normal. But for us, it's not normal. So I'm excited. I am absolutely hyped, and I'm incredibly excited. And the Brentford result hasn't really dampened my mood. It hasn't really dampened my confidence either, if I'm honest. But we'll obviously get to that in more detail a little bit later on. As you can see, for the time being, we're not yet joined by your expert, but we will be joined by him in about 10 or so minutes. But there are actually a few things solely Chelsea related, I guess, that we want to discuss before that anyways. On which note, I will get my two lovely, wonderful guests in. Let me start with you, Clutch. Clutch, thank you for coming as always, my bro. First of all, how you doing? Similar feelings to myself? Excited for the game tomorrow, or a little bit more on the nervy side of things compared to myself?
Nah, no nerves. I mean, I love Champions League football, man. I love playing against other European teams. Like, I love the Premier League too, and it's a very close second for me. But whenever you get to go up against like the Bayerns, the Real Madrids, Barcelonas, those teams of the world, it's always because it's like a special moment. It's one of those things. It's one of the reasons why, the main reason why I didn't like the Super League is these special moments that don't come all that often, where you're playing teams that you don't normally play on a year in, year out basis, right? You do get a chance to play them, and it does put your skill level to a test. So for me, I'm very excited about it. The weekend, I do think their blips happen. I think Thomas Tuchel kind of spoke about it in the press conference pretty well. These things happen, but they're focused on flipping it back around. I think for us, it's just a lot of things are happening at the same time, but I know this team has the ability to shake it off and go back in to full focus mode and get this job done tomorrow.
Fair dues. I respect it, mate. I mean, I think we all kind of see it in a similar vein, really, in terms of how big the Champions League is. Price, I'm sure you agree as well. First of all, thank you for coming as always, mate. Similar thoughts to myself, a Clutch? Excited rather than nervous?
Yeah, I'm very excited because I'm going to the game. So I don't know. I always find out, like, when I go to the games, I'm more excited than nervous. But when I watch on TV, I just get really nervous for some reason. I don't know. I guess because it's when you're at the game, you can, kind of shout and forget about, you kind of fully immersed into it, I feel like. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a good game. For some reason, I'm just weirdly confident. I mean, this kind of happened similar last year, wasn't it? Like, we got battered by West Brom, then we beat Porto, and I know Porto is not Real Madrid, but usually Chelsea, I think with this Tuchel team, he's installed an overall really good mentality, and I think we do turn up for the big games. I know Tuchel mentioned that, the fans need to be better, and I think the atmosphere will be rocking tomorrow night. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Laurenz, to be honest with you.
There you go. You bring up a good point there. I guess because it's kind of pointless when we discuss it with Alex later, so I might as well bring it up now. So both after the game against Brentford on Saturday and today in the pre-match press conference, Thomas Tuchel has basically called on and demanded basically a better atmosphere from the fans. And, I know fans like to be a bit butthurt and are like, I'm going to criticize the atmosphere. Well, if you're being realistic with yourselves, atmosphere at Stamford Bridge, especially when the game isn't big, and especially when the team is not playing particularly well, it's not great. So I really rate the fact that Tuchel gives no two shits and just comes out and says it how it is and says we need more, which I understand. Obviously, there's always the perspective, well, the players get paid hundreds and thousands of pounds per week while the fans spend money to be there. So there's nothing to be demanded from the fans, which I understand too, that perspective of things. But yeah, no, I hope if any of you that are watching or watching this at a later point are lucky enough to go, including Pice, of course, bloody scream your lungs out. No second to be quiet here. Don't care whether we concede or not. It's how it works over here in Europe. But a couple of small things that we will discuss before Alex joins us. There's been a few minor updates on the whole owner takeover situation. Now, which we haven't actually discussed on this channel yet. I think it was on Saturday or Sunday? Can't remember. But the Ricketts obviously released this 8 bullet point kind of statement or whatever of things that they will promise the club, including like they will not change the club color and crest and badge. And I'm like, well, obviously not. And a bit of other waffle type thing. Obviously, your views on that, I will ask you both in a second about it. There was also now just come out an article by The Athletic about the Ricketts redevelopment plans for Stamford Bridge. And it seems like all of Boehly, Broughton and the Ricketts, their plan is rather than doing what Roman had initially thought about in 2015, where it's like we tear the whole thing down, we move out of Stamford Bridge for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years to Wembley or wherever, and rebuild the whole thing. They're more thinking about a redevelopment stand by stand, a bit like Liverpool did. Obviously, we'll probably not end up in as nice of a new stadium then, because I'm not sure if that's even possible if you do every stand individually. But I guess those things are worth mentioning. Just quickly, my thoughts on the whole Ricketts statement thing with the bullet points they released. Yeah. I mean, they released those. Good. I mean, fair enough. They said what we wanted to hear. All right, brilliant. But we obviously don't know whether they're going to stick by it. The track record shows they won't. My big problem with the whole Ricketts thing is that Ben Griffin, who obviously is reportedly travelling to London with 2 of the Ricketts family to meet with Chelsea, and obviously they've gotten another Donny involved. I forgot his name, but he's part owner or owner of forgot the name, but the Cavaliers, the NBA team where LeBron James used to play.
Dan Gilbert.
There you go. They got him involved. The funny thing is both of these guys have way more money than the Ricketts. So it's like, will the Ricketts even have the majority share? And if they don't have the majority share, why are they running the bid? Because surely the second that there was big like counter against them from within the fan base, they should have just changed who fronts the bid, right? Because none of us are probably big fans of this Hans-Jörg Vistoni with some of the things he comes out with like, oh, I don't like Ramovich, essentially. So I just find them a bit stupid as well. So not only do they seem to be bad people, bad owners, they're now also a bit stupid. Why would you not just change who fronts the bid to make your whole PR structure a bit easier? I don't really understand. Clutch, much of a thoughts on the whole 8 bullet points or whatever it was that they released on the weekend?
You know, it's funny because anybody who has half a brain is going to say all the things they said when you're trying to buy a new club, especially if you're already in hot water with the fans who don't want you in the first place. You're going to start saying things just to make it sure, like, hey, we promise we're going to do everything you want. We're not going to be the same people that we used to be. But it's like, I'm somebody who doesn't take words at face value. I take actions at face value. And their actions show that they're not going to do any of what they say. So for me, it's not even about like it's about what they've previously done to show in their own history that they're not going to do what they say. So for me, you can put all the bullet points out you want. I don't care. It's not going to change my mind. You have done your damage in the past. Now, if your actions say something different with the Cubs or something, like, hey, you want to start doing all that with the Cubs? Sure, but you don't do that now with the Cubs. So why are you going to do any different? Obviously, I'm from the state that has the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, they're saving money with the Cubs to spend it on Chelsea. Oh my days. These are such clowns. Like, I can't believe that they've made it this far in this whole process. I can't believe it, honestly.
Yeah, and I live in the state that has the Cleveland Cavaliers, and, you know, since LeBron James left, they haven't really invested much into anything. So, I mean, LeBron James was the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I used to go to a lot of Cleveland Cavaliers games as a kid. I played basketball on the court, all that. I know that team is not run very well. Dan Gilbert is not a very nice guy. He's not a very good owner, so to say. So even him getting involved doesn't make me any more positive about the situation. For me, the Ricketts, they're done. Like, just go away. If you want to go buy Brentford, like Musa said in the chat, go buy Brentford. I'll be okay with that. But stay away from Chelsea.
No, I do agree. What did I want to say? Oh, yeah. The one thing I will bring up with the whole, like, there's not necessarily a guarantee that just because, oh, no, sorry, that's what I wanted to react to. They would still be on the board, so it's pointless changing front man. No, it isn't, because it makes a big difference whether you're a majority shareholder or not. If anyone is majority shareholder, and if there's no majority shareholder, then it matters who has the biggest stake. because then when things are decided, big important decisions are made, then whoever has the biggest share has the most say. So it does make a difference. And if they're not even going to have the largest share, I don't understand why, if they want it, they would keep themselves as the frontmen. That to me makes no sense. The one, not counter argument, I don't even want to paint it that way, but I find it a bit funny how, like, okay, the Ricketts released this and everyone's like, yeah, you don't believe them. But everybody seems to believe the things that Todd Boehly says or used to say. And I know they're not in this context, but still, there's equally no for sure way of knowing whether either of them are going to do well or not well. Also, yeah, of course, Todd Boehly does well with the LA Dodgers. Brilliant, fantastic. So there is a track record of him being successful with a sports team. Good. But the Glazers are also successful with their American sports teams. And they're really not with Man United. So just because necessarily Boehly is with them doesn't mean he will be with us. And I guess the other way around, just because someone isn't successful in America doesn't mean they won't be here, I guess, although there's less examples that way around. But Pies, just quickly, in terms of the redevelopment plans of Stamford Bridge, anything big that was said there, anything that needs to be discussed, and potentially also that Ken Griffin is now also flying to London, anything that needs to be said on that before we move on to tomorrow's game?
Well, in terms of the Athletic article, which we're talking about, was from Simon Johnson. He obviously interviewed them, it was, I think, a guy called Eric Nordness, who led the Ricketts family's 1 billion redevelopment of Wrigley Field. So I read through it. To be honest with you, it sounded like quite an interesting interview. And it didn't sound too bad. I think he's got a similar idea to basically Todd Boehly and Sir Martin Broughton's group, where they would build stand by stand instead of moving us away to somewhere like Wembley for 5 years. However, like, there's a lot of detail in this article, but he knows it's going to be very, very hard to build stand. It's extremely hard, whatever they're going to do. Basically, like, there's definitely a lot of planning that needs to go into it. Fans been telling me, oh, someone's going to come in and just straight away build the stadium. It's not as easy as that. There's going to be a lot of planning, potentially several months to at least a year before they actually decide how they're going to actually do things. But I guess the one most interesting thing, which, I mean, I had some people say, oh, that's brilliant. And I heard some people basically say, tell me to F off when I said, they asked him a question about, would Stamford Bridge be used like Tottenham Stadium in terms of another revenue stream for concerts and all that? And this guy, who is a part of the Ricketts family's bid, I guess, because he would be doing the stadium, kind of like Jonathan Goldstein, I imagine, said, yes, we would look into that. We would look into having Stamford Bridge hosting other events, potentially some sort of, they mentioned some sort of like slide out pitch or something. I don't know how on earth this is all going to work.
That means they're going to bring the NFL. I hate my life.
Yeah. But so he said, yeah, we would look at integrating something like that and blah blah blah. And some were like, oh, that's great, that means loads more money for us. And some people just said, no, I don't want that anywhere near Chelsea and Stamford
I just don't want
Bridge.
the NFL. I don't care if they do boxing or concerts or whatever, but don't ruin. Like, I know they would do it on a different pitch, but I'm just scarred because my local club here shares the stadium with the American football team here. So for a few months every year, they try to wash off like the chalk of the American football, like drawings on the pitch. They try to wash it off, but it doesn't. So you can still flip and see it, and you're like, what am I doing? I am not in the US States, so why on earth can I see American football lines on my football pitch? So pissed off. But I mean, yeah, it would be a different pitch.
I mean, he did also say, though, like, after that, he said, like, the brand has to be respected and, like, they need to improve it. But it's like, to be honest, this guy overall sounded, like, calm, to be honest. He sounded all right in terms of the guy and his thoughts for Stamford Bridge. I quite liked it overall because he wasn't
well,
like
watch him make the Cubs play at Stamford Bridge.
No, but like overall,
like every game, obviously, but that's it, like once a year.
Yeah, in the article though, I liked, it's very in detail. You guys can go and read it if you want, but from what I read, it didn't sound too bad. It wasn't like, oh, piss off sort of thing. I didn't get that reaction. I thought it was quite detailed and stuff. So yeah, and Ken Griffin, I mean, yes, he's flying to London according to Matt Law. Obviously, he got an immense worth of money, but so was Dan Gilbert. And then again, I just think, like, you could just team up with Dan Gilbert, who's a sports owner. Like, why do you have to be with the Ricketts? And Matt Law keeps saying the Ricketts are going to run Chelsea day to day anyway. So, what is this bid? Like, is it like, are the Ricketts going to be like Amanda Stavely and run the club while all the money comes from Griffin and Gilbert? Is it going to be, like, who's going to be the majority stakeholder here? Because people were mentioning, like, obviously the most money is going to come from Griffin, obviously, isn't it? Like, in terms of the bid. Like Ricketts have got money, but like this Griffin guy's loaded, and now they're adding Gilbert, and by the way, potentially even more. And I'm just like, I don't want it to be like, for me, 3 people at the most is the absolute maximum you can have. If you go beyond that, I'm just like, well, it's just going to get a bit messy then, isn't it? You know what I mean? In terms of like, that's why I don't like Sir Martin Broughton's bid, because I'm like, why have you got you, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, Vivek Ranadive, whatever his name is, and like there's 3 there already, and yourself and others that have yet to be named, like Nick Candy vibes. Like, you don't want investors from everywhere. Like, just like, where's your organisation? You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I do agree. The one thing I do find strange is obviously people saying, yeah, what, like they're just gonna try to use us to make money, like the Ricketts and their consortium. I'm like, obviously, potentially. But these other 2 people, Ken Griffin, and again, we'll never remember that name, I don't think. The owners of the Cavaliers, they have so much money. There's much less risky ways of making money than buying a Premier League club. So if this is just to make money, surely there's better ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of always my perspective. Where I'm like, if it's just about money, just do something different with it. Do you know what I mean? It's so many simpler things to multiply your money than buying a football club, having to deal with millions of fans all around the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's much easier ways to do things. But enough of that. Let's bring our special guest of the day in. Alex, you're an expert. Thank you for joining us with your wonderful Olympiacos kit there. Chelsea against Real Madrid tomorrow. Obviously, there's some other big Champions League games going on today as well. But we're here to discuss our big game. Of course, we have Alex on to give us an insight on Real Madrid in particular. Has anything changed compared to last year? Of course, Zinedine Zidane last year, Carlo Ancelotti this year. They're running away with La Liga, 12 points clear at the top, even though Barcelona have a game in hand, but still running away with that. But a couple of cheeky tweets I've seen from Alex already giving me an interesting viewpoint on what he's about to say in the coming hour, whatever we're going to sit here talking. Alex, first of all, thank you for joining us, as always, for these, especially first leg Champions League games for Chelsea. Appreciate it very, very much. How you been, mate? How you been? Are you excited for these quarterfinals as well, I presume?
I am. I feel a bit nervous coming on here because the last time I came on was the post-mortem of Romelu Lukaku. And now it seems to be the post-mortem of Chelsea Football Club as a whole. So it's like, I feel like I've picked the worst times. But I feel like, as Laurenz has hinted, I feel like I bring brighter news tonight if I don't jinx it.
There you go. Well, to be fair, you did warn us of Lille. And I mean, it was difficult, but, we did
I think I did all right,
as you predicted.
Yeah, I thought I did all right on that one.
Yeah, you did, to be fair. You absolutely did. Now, for us, it's a huge game. Now, no journalists, as of what was shown so far, has asked the question, or as clutch as theory is, as the club didn't want to answer it. We will never know. But we don't know who's fit and who's not. Now, yesterday, Mendy and Kante didn't train. Today, they did. So, presumably, everybody's fine. Except, obviously, Chilwell and probably Hudson-Odoi with his Achilles problems. But it's still an interesting one. Now, before we get into the Chelsea side of things, and obviously after our stinker against Brentford on the weekend, let's actually talk about Real Madrid for a second, Alex, if you wouldn't mind. Like I said, they're top of La Liga, quite a bit clear. And, I mean, every now and again, they run into bad results, but for the most part, they just dispatch of everyone quite comfortably, except Barcelona, when they got absolutely battered. But that was without Benzema. But should that make such a difference in how many goals you concede? I'm not sure. So I'll ask you, does having Benzema make them concede less goals too?
No, I mean, Benzema is probably crucial to absolutely everything else other than that defense. So, like, it cannot be understated how good he is. I think he's the top goal scorer and might be the top assister in La Liga right now. 24 goals it should be now after the weekend, and 11 assists. Going forward, it's crazy how good he is. Defensive-wise, it's not really contributing on that. And I think it's a fair comment.
There you go. How do you think? Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti is different to Zinedine Zidane. First of all, how has that changed things? And has that changed things more than their departures? Because obviously Sergio Ramos left. Although, to be fair, we have to say he didn't play much last season anyway because he was constantly injured, as is at PSG this season, to be fair. But also Rafael Varane, of course, left for Manchester United. So now their centre-back pairing is 9 times out of 10 Eder Militao and David Alaba, of course, of Austria. I mean, he scored in his first Clasico, but his second Clasico, has any defender ever played a worse Clasico than Alaba did? In that, like, every single moment of defense, he just screwed up, I swear. But what do you think is the biggest difference for them? The different manager, or is it the different set of players? Because Real Madrid are, if anything, the one team that for nearly a decade has essentially not changed their team. Obviously, minor changes like Courtois coming in for Navas, or obviously Ronaldo leaving, which isn't a minor change, but still, or you had like Bale or Di Maria, or do you know what I mean? Like minor changes, but the grand scheme of things and the core of the team was always the same. Now you have, of course, Vinicius, but now that changed at the back. Do you think that was a bigger downfall to them, or is it more of a different manager?
Well, yeah, to add on to that point, in Benzema, Modric, Casemiro, Cruz, Carvajal, you've got the same players there who played when Ancelotti was first at Real Madrid in 2014, like 2013, 14, 15. See, you really, this is an aging team. And the simplified explanation, I think you could describe how Ancelotti's managing the team at the moment. And it's quite an interesting way as well. Last year, when I came on here and we spoke about Zidane, I remember telling you guys about how Casemiro is effectively a DM, but he'd also make late runs into the box because in Cruz and Modric, they're quite slow, relatively old in football as well, so they're not able to cover as much ground and press quite high. So Zidane was kind of finding quite niche ways in and around these size limitations. The side's a year older and hasn't changed much. And I think Ancelotti's taken a bit of a plainer route. He's now pushing his fullbacks higher. Last year, if you looked at the heat maps of Modric and Cruz, they're spending quite a bit of time out wide. They're asked to cover a bit more ground. Now they've really just been confined to central areas, and that midfield is quite static. I think we saw that against Barcelona too. It's been a lot more simple, especially since in La Liga, they really have not been challenged, basically anyway. I mean, there were points this season where we were saying, could Sevilla go and win La Liga? And looking back now in hindsight, that was such an indictment of how one horse this title race has been. I mean, when Barcelona, the El Clasico you've mentioned just now, when Barcelona thrashed them recently, to me that was like the nail in the coffin of why I think early on, I think Chelsea will beat Real Madrid possibly easier than last year, because once they go up against a top side that isn't in the style of La Liga, which now is the oldest league in Europe, it's quite a slow defensive league. I feel like Madrid aren't really up for that task at the moment, and they need a big squad overhaul. So, long-winded answer: they've got slower, they've got older, and they're still quite limited in how they can play.
Fair enough. And is it just the fact that they kind of gotten older and haven't changed much that you would say is the reason why you would almost class them as the tad worse now than they were this time a year ago, or a little less than a year ago? Is that the main reason? Because I guess you could say their centre-backs got a little bit younger. Obviously, Militao is a bit younger than Varane, and Alaba is younger than Ramos. But that just doesn't seem to work. It just seems like all of these teams, whether it's Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, I mean, PSG, when they play big teams, they just park the bus themselves. But they're just all so susceptible to counterattacks whenever I see anything of them. I'm like, what are these people doing? I mean, to be fair, even Liverpool and Man City are that to some extent, but they at least know how to defend it, even if last ditch. But I swear these other big teams, and that includes Real Madrid, they're just constantly running into situations where the opposition is just attacking them with like 3 or 4 players against like 2. And I just don't understand how managers can keep letting that happen.
Well, there's two answers to that. And so the original question of like, is the reason why they've got worse is because they're slower and older? Simple answer would be yes. And before I continue, like, this is still a very top team, like top class team. Want to put some respect on them. I saw JC25 in the comments saying they're in the mud. Let's not pretend you didn't get battered by Brentford at the weekend, mate. Just a little bit, a little bit of fun for you. But
is that why you're wearing a red and white top?
No, I just think it looks quite nice. But still, with Madrid, the more complex answer behind their squad and the makeup of it, and how you're kind of saying about the counter-attacking thing, separate point, we'll get into it. Madrid have genuinely been saving up this Mbappe fund. It's not just a headline that they've not spent much money at all over the past 3 or 4 years. And it was because they've been upgrading their stadiums. They've been limited in their spending. And in order to get Kylian Mbappe from what they thought, 200 million, they've had to save up that transfer kitty to make sure they can make that move happen. And that's why they haven't upgraded their squad. Like, this is more or less the same sort of team. Like, we spoke about 2014, but even 2018, like, genuinely, if you went back to Militao when he arrived, I think that's 2018, the only new player in there is like new players are Alaba and Courtois, like in the predicted starting lineup list. So there really is, like, this team is in desperate need of upheaval. And on the counter-attacking thing, why you might see him getting counter-attacks, and why against PSG, for example, you watched the first leg of that Champions League, you saw them sit back as if they were Burnley for the majority of that leg. And this is my opinion here. La Liga, as I've said, it's the oldest league in Europe now. That's a fact by the stats. Oldest league, way ahead of Serie A. I think it's average age of 28 this season, which in football terms, like, Liga 1's average age is like 23. So it's quite a big difference there. And a lot of the teams genuinely are lacking, no matter what it's said, they're lacking in pace. A lot of teams in La Liga are quite slower, rely on a bit more of a long ball. There's no real, but it's not. There are some quick players in there. You can think of Inaki Williams and players like that. But like the average team you watch, it's quite like a bulky sort of striker. You think of Unau at Hetafe or Rafa Mir or that fellow at Sevilla.
Negredo, doesn't he still play over there?
Yeah, I think so. You've got
for Cadiz, is it?
Yeah, and I think Soldado only retired not long ago as well. So the answer would be, when you see Real Madrid play against these big teams who've got that sort of, they're different to their normal position, in my opinion, that's where they can kind of get caught out. And it's either they play and push high like they did against Barcelona and get shocked, or they play it really safe like they did against PSG and sit back and, in fairness, nearly beat him in that first leg and beat him in the second leg. So yeah, hopefully that answered both your points.
There you go. Now, with that said, of what they did in Paris in the first leg against PSG, do you expect them to approach the game tomorrow similarly to that? Because I presume almost for us, it's probably a little bit of a negative that the Barcelona game happened, because it probably scares them now to leave gaps because it happened. Had it not happened, they might have risked it, and we might have been the ones to punish them. But now that they've experienced it, is there a chance that they will just try to, especially at Stamford Bridge, will just be rather defensive and try to use like Vinicius and I don't know who they're going to play on the right, Rodrigo potentially, just for some pace, and try to counterattack? How do you see them setting up?
That's a good point to bring up. If you look at their average, like most used 11 in the La Liga or the Champions League, it's the exact same, apart from one difference. On the right wing, Rodrigo's played quite a bit in the Champions League, more than Asensio has in the league. And he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. So I feel like they might prioritize that speed up front with like either side of Benzema. And on the point of will they change things up or like change their game plan, I think that's on the cards. I mean, when they played Barcelona, obviously they didn't have Benzema, but they went for like a weird, someone called it a false 9. I've got the lineup in front of me, and Google described it as a 4-2-4 with Modric and Vinicius up front and Valverde at left wing. Which kind of shows it shows Ancelotti did really switch things up there. And like against PSG, was in the last major leg, they were a lot more defensive. I saw a Real Madrid fan in the comments complaining they played like Burnley. Harsh, but they did sit back and they did invite the pressure.
Maybe Real Madrid just need to respect Burnley a bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the issue.
I'm a big fan of Burnley, so don't take that as an insult, Pussy Sahar. Like, I just mean you wouldn't be dominating the ball. Like, to bring it up to your point a minute ago, I do expect Chelsea to hold the majority of the possession. Kind of like, if I remember rightly, they sort of did at points, at least in the first leg against Madrid last year, where in the second leg, you sat back a bit more and not sat back, but you just kind of frustrated Madrid.
Them, I guess.
Yeah. But I think in the first leg of this time, Chelsea are expected to have more of the ball, I reckon, despite Madrid's reputation. It's quite weird. I guess, like, if you took the names and reputations away from both of these teams, I don't think it's unfair to suggest Chelsea would be at least marginal favourites. But because of Madrid's weight in this competition, they're the most successful team in the Champions League, it's hard to be like, well, they're going to be underdogs going into this. So it's sort of a hard narrative to gauge there.
And also they're top of their league. We're third in ours. So two last questions, I guess, before I let kind of Pies and Clutch react to what you've just told us. Number one, are you still pretty confident that their midfield three is going to be their midfield three? Or are they, because of how we just outran them, essentially, last year, are you worried, or not worried, but are you thinking that they could throw, for example, a Valverde in there, a Camavinga in there, instead of one of the three? Well, Casemiro isn't that old, but still of the three, senior and regular starters in that midfield of theirs.
I don't think. Well, it's interesting. I don't think Modric should be dropped purely because of how he did in the second leg. I think that's probably enough of a case for him to say that I could turn the game around. Maybe Kroos would be the one to be dropped, but I can only see Valverde coming in because Camavinga this season he's come on at different points, but he's not really hit the ground running yet. It's not been a flop by any means. It's not dropped by expectations. He just hasn't been fully integrated. Hasn't made many appearances. So maybe Kroos will be dropped, and maybe Valverde will come in, who I think is a little bit more of a utility man who could be used in this game. But at the same time, personally, I think all these three will start. I just think there'll still be sort of that ego in a sense, even if Ancelotti will make some changes. That might be on the cards, might make some changes, catch Chelsea out. But the other part of me thinks there will be that element of we are Real Madrid, like we will play our best 11 to get the best out of our players rather than limiting Chelsea, if you get what I mean.
No, I do. One thing you said in terms of their transfer as well, the problem is that the few big transfers that they have made were Eden Hazard and Luka Jovic. And you just told us about the fact that Benzema was missing against Barcelona, and then they played without a striker, but they have Luka Jovic, who they signed for 60 million. Like, they're worse at transfers than we are, man.
I mean, I tell you what, the Hazard thing, that's a good point. I know Chelsea fans are big interest. Jovic, like, I'll be honest, he may as well have been a pedestrian. I don't know what he's done at Madrid. No idea. But if anything, he plays into it. I did a study. I think I've spoken on this channel about it before, briefly at least, into injuries in La Liga. And I found that last year, I believe it was, Madrid were averaging over an injury per player, in their squad. At least every player in their squad on average got injured once, which is it was wildly.
Might be on that this season. I can't lie.
Possibly, but the issue with Madrid is that they're averaging close to that every year for the past 4 years, and it's not just the numbers in that. They've had issues with their sort of, I think their head of, I forgot the name of it, physicality, conditioning. That's it. Head of physical conditioning. He was hired and fired last year as well. So when we talk about Hazard, when you bring him up, he clearly has flopped, and in my opinion, I do think he is at fault because of how he doesn't carry himself well when training, famously, and how he was pictured out of shape. But I don't think Madrid's medical department has helped him in any way. And so maybe, when Eden Hazard eventually gets brought up by fans, and there'll be that debate, it's something worth considering that maybe, as much as he hasn't helped himself, Madrid have not helped him either.
It is weird because I saw a picture of him, and the report was 3 days before it came out that he was going to have this surgery to get this plate from his fibula removed. There was pictures of him saying, and a report saying he's basically fitter than ever now, at least fitter than he's ever been at Madrid, which I guess doesn't mean much, but from judging from the picture at least, he looked pretty in shape. But again, my question is, was it always planned to have the surgery in April, or end of March, whenever it was? To me, it's just why? If he's apparently in the shape of his life at Madrid, why would you now choose to remove that plate if he can play with the plate? I just why would you do that in April? There's nothing going on this summer. There's not even Euros or World Cup. There's nothing. So you could just make him do that in the summer, and it doesn't affect him going to the World Cup with Belgium either anyway. So I'm just baffled by the fact that he's having the surgery right now.
Yeah, I get what you mean. As well as saying though, even though I'll be missing Hazard, and I've seen a comment about Price Love and Hazard. I'll put it, myself, I'm in the camp. I think Hazard is one of the best Premier League players. I think he's underrated by some fans who say he didn't get many goals or assists. Some of the goals I've seen him score have been ridiculous, off your seat sort of level. But Madrid, in a weird way, I don't think we'll be missing him purely because of how good Vinicius Jr. has been. Yeah. He's the only ever Madrid player to get more than 10 league goals this year. And I think we've all seen highlights of him at least.
I presume.
Yeah. We've all seen highlights of him, at least over the past couple of years, of him like amazing through players. Like last year against Liverpool, he terrified them. But he had that sort of Gervinho gene where he'd get into the box and not score. And now he's quite
so
scarily.
Hard for Vinicius to compare it to Gervinho.
I'm for the fun comparisons, lots. But now he's added that. He's got rid of that gene. He's taken some genetic modifying, and he's actually scoring goals, and he looks quite terrifying.
Against PSG, he missed a few. I feel like I remember, or was it against Barcelona? Potentially both.
Potentially both, but at least on record this year, he can say he scored a lot of goals.
And just lastly, do they have, other than what's his face, Hazard? Do they have any injury concerns at all?
Jovic out and Isco is doubtful, but I don't think he'd play anyway.
Do you think he will play anyway? Or
No, I don't think he'd play. If he was fit, he wouldn't play anyway.
Fair play. Now, Pice, let me get to you. After everything that your expert has explained to us, now I was on Charlie's stream earlier in the day, and I told him that your expert, like on Twitter, has already kind of hinted at he thinks Real Madrid are worse now than they were a year ago. Everyone probably thinks they're better because obviously they're top of the league. They didn't win the league last year. So now that you had it and Alex's explanation for it as well, does that change at all your feelings ahead of tomorrow, or how you think we should approach the game potentially?
Well, I mean, I hope Alex is right. And I've been talking to a lot of Real Madrid fans who've said, "Oh no, don't worry, Pice. We're not that good. You know, oh fuck, we're playing Chelsea. Don't want to play Tuchel." And I'm just like for me, looking at their squad on the outset, like they've got, as you said, younger centre backs now, like Militao, Alaba instead of Ramos. I think the thing is for me, if they play Kroos, Casemiro, Modric, then I'm confident because I feel like we can overrun that midfield, especially if Kovacic plays. And a lot of their fans have been saying like they actually want to start both Valverde and Camavinga in the midfield together because they don't like Kroos and Casemiro. They like Modric, but it's usually those two that they think are apparently clowns. So, I mean, I think Kroos is a great player, but I do get the point. Is like they are kind of old. They're more technical players. You know, if Alex is right in terms of like the intensity and stuff, we could obviously take advantage of that and overrun them, overwhelm them with our press as well. So, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game. But for me, looking at their squad, like I still think they're a very, very good team. I think Vinicius is obviously someone that has been on form for a while now, and obviously you've got Benzema. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting actually. I was going to ask Alex, is Mendy playing? Is he? Because I've not heard much about him. Will he be playing?
Yeah, he looks like he's predicted
Yeah,
to start.
Did he start last year? Because I can't remember.
No, he was.
He didn't, did he?
Yeah, he was famously out because then Madrid switched that back three so they could play Marcelo.
Yeah, see, I think he's a very good player. So for me personally, I think everyone keeps talking about, you know, their defense is worse and this and that, the other. I think their defense, on the face of it, anyways, is miles better than last season with Mendy, with Militao, with Alaba. All three of those, and I mean, Courtois on great form as well when he wasn't really last year. So. I mean, I don't know. Carvajal is obviously a bit of a sticky one. He's not great, but for me, they've got three very good defenders.
On the Courtois note, I'll quickly throw in, question. Did you guys see his comments in the press conference?
We did. He's trying to nice us up, I hear.
Yeah, he explicitly said, I hope Chelsea fans, I'd ask Chelsea fans not to boo me.
I'm booing him, don't worry.
I had a great time. We're just rivals now. We'll get on. There's no bad blood.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. Wait, I'll never forget him. When he first joined Real Madrid, the quote that triggered me the most, I was like, "How dare you?" Was when he said, I mean, it's facts, but he was like, "When I played at Stamford Bridge, I could see like the hotel behind me, but at Real Madrid, it's just stands. You can't see the sky or anything." And I'm just like, "Oh fucker! Like, who are you? Like, who gassed you? Like, show some respect to Stamford Bridge." Like, you've
one
played
issue
for
was
5 years.
One issue was that every international break, he was on Spanish radio saying, "I'd love to move to Madrid. It's just such a wonderful place to go." Like during your whole time at Chelsea.
Obviously,
it was his favorite thing to do. But, I mean, Charlie asked me about this earlier, and I mean, Pice clearly feels a lot of resentment against him. I'm just like, I don't really care, man. It's like,
he went AWOL against us.
I know he did. But I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, we have a better goalkeeper than him now. I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah, but we panic signed Kepa because his ass decided to go AWOL a week before the season. That's why
do you think we would have signed somebody other than Kepa then? I don't think so.
Well, we was trying to sign Allison, but we didn't really have any.
But he was
any
gone by
choice.
the time Courtois went AWOL. He was at Liverpool,
Exactly, but like we obviously because we had sniffs that Courtois could go, and then he just decides to go AWOL, and I'm just like, mate, who does this? A week
Yeah, no,
before
I
the new
agree.
season,
I'm just like,
we
who
give
cares?
you the
We have a better
throne to
goalkeeper
check,
now.
like,
Let him rot over there if he wants to.
bro. Oh my days, bro. I'm finally gonna get my voice on him tomorrow night.
There you go. What did I see up here that I wanted to react to? Now, in Life No Limits, don't let Austria fool you into thinking that Gareth Bale is still a good footballer. He can score a free kick, and he's great for Bales, essentially. For Wales. I mean, Alex, I'm pretty sure he's not going to play, is he? At least not from the start.
Yeah, not from the start. And I mean, my only comment would that be, like, I think previously it's been a love-hate relationship. It's just hate now. Like, at least the Spanish press, they hate him. Absolutely despise him. Them. Yeah. So I don't think there's any love there anymore.
No, there you go. Clutch, any sort of reactions to all the things that Alex has informed us about Real Madrid? Anything that surprised you in that?
Not really. I mean, Real Madrid's one of those teams I do kind of keep a little bit of an eye on because of the prominence of them. I don't think they're necessarily... I mean, the fact is they are older, and that does make them a little bit worse, but kind of like Tiger Woods at the Masters this weekend. The prominence of Real Madrid still is there. Tiger Woods is still at the Masters. He still has the chance.
Surprised you don't Bale isn't at the Masters, to be honest.
Oh, he might be. Don't rule it out just yet. But yeah, I think Real Madrid always has that chance, and especially with Vinny and Benzema in form, they can hurt any team. But I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and forget that we're not one of the best defensive teams in the planet when we're on form. Thiago Silva has been absolutely insane this year for us. I mean, if we bring in Christensen and Rudiger for a back three, like I think we will, I mean, we're going to be defensively solid. I don't think I'm scared enough offensively by them. Their midfield is where we're really going to have to hurt them. So, I mean, I haven't really quite decided in my head how we're going to do that yet, but I think that's the key to winning against Madrid is taking their midfield out of the game. I think our offensive players are good enough to hurt their back line, especially if you have Pulisic against Carvajal. He's an aging defender. He's not going to be as fast or quick as Pulisic. And I mean, we've seen what Carvajal had to do against Mbappe, which I'm not going to put Pulisic on that same level, but a faster, more agile kind of player is going to be difficult for Carvajal. But I am cautiously optimistic. I do think we can have that result. Real Madrid doesn't really scare me. Is Bale going to play? No. I mean, Ancelotti just hates Gareth Bale, so it doesn't really matter anymore whether he's ever on the bench or not. But, yeah, I think it's going to be key down to that midfield.
There you go. The only, not frustrating, but the annoying thing about playing Madrid is that their strong side is their left side, and our strong side is our right side, meaning both of our shit sides are our left side, their right side, meaning... I don't know what to do because do we fight fire with fire against Vinicius and Mendy and try to beat them that way, or do we make sure we nullify them, but then we have to rely on our left side to create and their shit? So, I mean, we'll discuss who will play on the left in a second. Richard Grace, I appreciate you very much for the super chat. He says we have Champions League Pulisic. He might not perform a lot during the season, but he loves tournaments. He sure does. And to be fair, obviously didn't play on the weekend, but generally he's been in reasonable form recently. And, did well against Real Madrid last year when he got to play against them in the second leg. So let's hope he turns up. Let's hope all of them turn up because I think after the last game, we just can't afford to have too many players not turn up. But ladies and gentlemen, on that note of Richard's Super Chat, if you want to have your opinions heard and want to make sure we discuss them, do use the Super Chat function. Otherwise, though, make sure you subscribe. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Check out Euro Expert on TikTok and Twitter, I guess. Pice's website is down in the description below, as is Clutch's Twitter. And smash the like button for me. Just one click for a button. Doesn't cost you any money. Barely cost you any time. But I will get up on screen now is the lineup for Chelsea, or not a lineup, but what we're going to discuss, what we should be doing, or what we want us to be doing. Now, Alex, before us as Chelsea fans give our opinions on this, obviously, I'm sure you're aware, we played a back four against Brentford on the weekend. Now, I think all of us hope we don't do that again. I guess the only hope is that maybe Ancelotti, for some reason, thinks we might do it again. And that with that, we then do even better in our back three. I don't know. But I presume you will also agree that we must change back to a back three.
Yeah, but I'd also say it's 11-3-4-3, 3-5-2, because in my opinion, I think that's what won you the tie last year against Madrid. Because I think that was when you had an informed Mount who was like in the front three, but he dropped in and formed a midfield three. Now, we won't get into personnel, but I don't know what the other guys think, what Clutch and Price think. I'd vote for going to a 3-5-2.
Yeah, I think that's if it's Mount here, I think that's kind of an automatic switch that happens during games anyway, and then it depends on the phase of the game how exactly we shift it around. So I think when Mount is in a front three, that always happens anyway. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, Alex.
Cool.
Hence why I will line it up like this, just because otherwise people will get confused.
I guess the debate then will
we're
be
not playing a different formation.
I guess the debate will be if Mount starts, because I know, hasn't he reached 100 Chelsea appearances with 5 open play assists? Ooh.
Don't know. He has 25 assists overall, to be fair to him.
Don't get them all started, Alex. you're gonna get the entire fan base to lose it.
You'll have all the Mount stats.
Maybe it's in the Prem, it's 5. I don't know. But it's like he has 25 assists. Surely not 20 of them have been set pieces. That's impossible.
I genuinely don't know. You guys are the Chelsea fans. I'm just messenger.
True. I have no idea how many he has. That's the problem with like people that aren't Chelsea fans. They obviously see mostly Premier League stats, right? While we as Chelsea fans, because we see every game, we mostly see all competition stats. And then when other fans throw stats at us, I'm like, well, I have no idea what stat this is because it's not a stat I've seen before. But hey, here we are. But yeah, obviously, we'll get into midfield a little bit later. Interesting debate that I'll use Pice's poll for as well. But in terms of the back three, let me actually take it back to you, Clutch. You named it there. Is that absolutely for sure your back three with obviously Mendy in goal if he is as fit as we presume now that he trained today?
Yeah,
or is there a little shout in your head that says maybe it should be an Aspie or Reece James here, just to make sure we deal with Vinicius?
If you're no, because I think Christensen's faster than Aspie. Maybe Reece James, but I still want Reece James as part of the attack, so I want him a little bit further forward. So for me, it is that 3. It has to be. Plus, Christensen he's a guy who wins a lot of headers when the ball comes flying through, and I know him against Benzema. That's going to be something I also want. So I kind of want that double. I want him having that. He's a little bit quicker than Aspie, having that defensive duty. So for me, Christensen is kind of a must this game.
There you go. No, I mean, I do agree. It definitely shouldn't be Chalobah. I have no idea why he wasn't in the squad on the weekend, but he definitely shouldn't be in the squad. He shouldn't be starting there like this one. Not against Vinicius. Like, please don't. But Pice, I presume you agree on this back three with goalkeeper?
100%. That's our best back three. Anyone who says otherwise, no. Start of the season, maybe you could argue Chalobah because he was really, really good, but that's 100% our best back three right now.
There you go. But that was kind of the simple part. I mean, maybe there will be another simple part when we get to the forwards. But now it's where it's a bit more tricky to decide what we should do and what we will do. The wing backs, because a lot of people in the fan base are calling for things like playing Aspie at wing back, because all of us are terrified of Alonso playing against anyone, even if Carvajal's a bit shit, and even if whether it's Asensio. I mean, Asensio isn't that quick anyway, but especially if they go for Rodrigo with his pace and then Alonso over there and Rudiger having to defend for 2 people at the same time again. That's why people are talking about Aspie on the left. But also, when you actually think about it, every time Aspie and Reece have both played as fullbacks / wingbacks, it was Reece that was over on the left, never Aspie. So why is anyone expecting Aspie to be in the left all of a sudden? It's very unlikely. With that said, then, who plays? Because if it's not one of them on the left, that means Aspie doesn't start. And I see that as basically completely impossible to happen. So now I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Alex, I'll let the guys go first, and then you can kind of judge what you think of what we said, essentially. So on this one, Pice, I'll let you go first. What's your wing-back combination for tomorrow, shall we say?
Well, just to say first off, when Reece James came on at left wing back against Brentford initially, I was like, "What on earth is Tuchel doing?" Because for me
But it's the same thing
personally,
every time. Remember the game he
I
got
just
injured
don't get it.
was also left wing back.
I personally do not get it at all. I don't know why he does it. I'd love him to someone to ask him why he does that because I don't know why. It's funny because actually I was watching him and he played left wing back for like 10 minutes, then went back to right wing back. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
well, it was
Aspie then went.
initially left back in our back four, and then we
Yeah,
changed
like
formation with the second set of subs, and then he went over
but
to right wing back.
I was just like, but anywhere on the left hand side for me, Reece is like. I just personally I don't get it. I think Aspie is more comfortable there, if anything. Um, I don't know. I feel like Reece is just too much of a threat to not play right wing back. Going forward, he has literally been one of our best players, which is embarrassing for some of our forwards. So, I mean, not only scores goals, obviously he sits up a load of chances. It's just generally a great right wing back now. I didn't think that at the start, but now I do. So I think he starts right wing back, and then left back or left wing back for me is like I want it to be Aspi personally because I feel more comfortable with him defending against someone like a Rodrigo or Asensio. I don't want Alonso playing, but I feel like Alonso will play. Um, which is then then
So
it's
do
like,
you
well,
think Aspie will get dropped?
that's what I was going to say. Like, then I'm just kind of thinking, so that means Aspi's dropped, and then I'm thinking, well, that's not going to happen. I don't personally see him dropping the captain for this big of a game. So
That's
what?
why I think Reece James might play here and Aspie plays right wing back.
See, I think
If it's
he's
predicted.
gonna. I think Tuchel's gonna play Aspi on the right and Reece on the left, and
Could be.
that back three. But what I would do
Could
is
be.
James on the right and Aspi on the left. So just basically do the opposite of what I think Tuchel's gonna do.
Just before I move on to clutch with this, I'll add something to this, and then Pice, you can say whether that you've thought of that before or not. Like I just mentioned, as I finished with Alex there, that Madrid's much stronger attacking side is their left side with Mendy and Vinicius, and they're weaker both defensively and offensively. I mean, I'm not sure about defensively, to be honest, because if Mendy attacks a lot, I'm not sure how useful he's attacking defensively, but he's super quick at least. But their right side is less threatening going forward and probably more susceptible defensively. So now, wouldn't that even make sense to put Reece there then? Because if you put Reece on the right and that's their strong attacking side, won't he be too busy defending to be useful in attack? While if we put him on the left, he might have more freedom to attack. But also, he's obviously much better on the right. So that's why I'm so conflicted, because on the one hand, it's Aspie at left wing back against Real Madrid is, in my opinion, super pointless because, or not super pointless, but yeah, he brings us more defensive stability in that sense. But that's the side where we need it less, which is the problem, which is why I'm like, if Real Madrid were the other way around, great. Like, do you know what I mean? If like Vinicius and Mendy were saying the other side, right? And Carvajal and Rodrigo were their left side, then it would be obvious that we do exactly what we have on screen now. But because it isn't, that's why I'm so undecided what I even think we should do, let alone what I want us to do. Do you know what I mean with that?
Like the thing is as well, it's like say Real Madrid do what Alex said and they go like really defensive. Alex, do you know like what for if Real Madrid were gonna say just defend this game and use transitions, what do you think they would do in terms of the attack? Like who would play? What would the shape be? Because like we're all talking about Vinicius going 1-on-1 with Reece James, but he might just be up top with Benzema or something, and he might be more attracted towards the centre backs. You know what I mean? So it's so hard to think about.
I think you're right on the latter. I think if Madrid sit back, then it'll be Benzema sitting up furthest, but he's not going to like hang forward like PSG attackers do. And Vinicius, I think would be maybe happier going 1v1 with a centre back over Reece James.
Yeah,
and I feel like he'd stay a bit closer to the centre to link up with Benzema.
it's just like for me because the reason why I'm putting Reece on the right is although he's going to go forward, I just feel like we need him to be a bit more disciplined because Vinicius, for me, every time I've watched him this season, like that guy is like, he gets me off my seat. I think he's really, really good. So, and he's rapid as well. Like he's so fast. So I'm like, if there's one player, I want him. Even if he gets past Reece James, then he has to face Christensen. Like it's like Christensen's rapid as well. So that's why I went with that sort of right hand side. It's hard to say though, because I don't know what Madrid are gonna do. Like,
Yeah, bro, there's even a case to be made for playing Rudiger on the right just so it's Rudiger against Vinicius.
bro, exactly, yeah, that's true as well.
Because
But
if
then
there's
again,
one player in our team that can pace-wise keep up with Vinicius, it's Rudiger. Like, he's the fastest player in the Premier League this season, which is still insane.
Yeah, but obviously, if you play Rudiger on the right in the back three, then that probably means Malang Sarr, which is not happening.
Oh, I
So-
pick Malang Sarr. He'll handle Rodrigo, no worries.
Would you put Malang Sarr at left wing back over Alonso?
Yes.
Bro, I'd put like my nan at left wing back over Alonso. Bro, I swear to God, I went to the Brentford game. Oh my days, I was losing my shit with this guy. He couldn't even shield the ball out of play. Like, he was just, honestly, you don't understand how annoying he is until you actually watch him live.
I feel like that's a good.
Yeah, it's hilarious as well, because we was doing a preview stream for Brentford, and Laurenz was like, "Oh, Alonso got 2 assists for Spain." I was like, "You know what? Chuck him in then." And then I go to the game at the weekend. I go to the game at the weekend. I'm like, "Oh my God, why the fuck is he playing?" Like, please, no.
Bro, it's Alonso. That's Alonso. See, people think, people of potentially that support lesser clubs, they think, Chelsea fans, they have it easy. You boys just haven't seen Alonso every week. That's why you think we have it easy. We need to watch that guy so often. Since Ben Chilwell got injured, that's why I've just constantly been depressed. Like, it's crazy. Do you know what I mean? Richard has come up with another super chat. Pice, did you want to add something there? Go on.
No, I was just going to say, watching Alonso and Werner was like I was being forced as a punishment or something. It was so bad.
Bro, it's a punishment. Like, it's like we had 2 red cards, man. Our whole left side just didn't exist.
There was sorry to go off track, but there was one moment where someone played an over-the-top ball, I can't remember who it was, to Werner down the left-hand side. And all the crowd got excited, and everyone was like, "Go on, use your pace!" And he got to the byline and just lost the ball. I was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Bro, he's such a clown. Sorry, he's such a clown. But Richard, with the massive super chat, I appreciate it very much. And a question, you know what? For entertainment's sake, I will just put it to Alex what he thinks of this. What do you think of playing Mount as a wing back behind Pulisic? Because we know their link up and connection, and he loves to run box to box, and it would allow him to still press and get involved offensively. Please don't drag me. I will not drag you because you gave me $20. But that's the only reason I'm not dragging you for saying such things. Now, I mean, see, as right wing back, I think that could even be a debate to be had, just because I think the fact Mount has an engine, he's reasonably quick and can cross. All of those things as a makeshift wing back, I think could be okay. But why would you put him on the left? There, I don't fully agree with you. But Alex, your point of view on that?
In fairness to him, I mean, as you say, he's given you $20, so I will not drag him, and I will take it seriously. In fact, Richard has not specified a left wing back. I do not believe.
Yeah, true. He just said behind Pulisic, who we want to play on the left.
So I will say I understand a bit of where he's coming from in terms of it allowing to press and get involved offensively. It might help coming like the late man in the box. Where I think you'd be going wrong, Richard, like where you'd actually be going wrong is just the fact that you probably want to swap Pulisic and Mount around if you're using them as one of them as a wing back, because in a 3-5-2, you want to protect your centre backs. You want your wing back to be quite quick, make sure they can cover ground quickly. If they're caught on a counter attack, he can get back. Mount is obviously a lot slower than Pulisic, so
see, I wouldn't back that if it's any more than 10 yards. Pulisic looks so slow these days. Like, he's playing well outside of being slow, but his acceleration is still good. But anytime he has to sprint anywhere, I swear Mount looks quick. I'm not saying he is quicker, but at least he somehow looks quicker. Do you know what I mean? You know how Messi is actually not that quick, but somehow looks quick when running? Maybe it's one of those with Mount. I don't know. But yeah, it's a weird one. Well, 1 second, Alex. Before I let you give your thoughts on what we should do with our wingback situation, let me put it over to Clutch. Would you agree with what Pice went with? Would you put Reece potentially in the left side? Would you go with Alonso, Saul, or Malang side on the left? What would you do?
You're asking me to pick between Alonso and Aspie, and I think that choice is very easy. I would not put Reece James on the left. Do I think Tuchel might? Yes, unfortunately. But here's my thing. So Aspie loves to get forward, and you also are going to, presumably you're all probably going to pick Pulisic on the left. So So you're going to have those two players who are going to make those late runs. You're going to have James on the other side who loves those crosses. For me, Aspie has to play on that left. And I guess it depends on who you play over where you have player 5. I think the midfield is going to be a little bit more difficult than the wing backs. I think if you are going to play Aspie, that's going to give Kovacic, who I think is a must start in the mid. I think that's going to allow him to get forward a lot more because Aspie and Rudiger are going to be a little bit more defensively stable. So for me, I would pick Aspie. And James on the right, Aspie on the left.
Fair dues. I think I would probably do the same, but for me, it's very close between that and the other way around, if I'm honest. I'm not sure which one works better. So, Alex, your perspective. Now, Reece James is presumably fit after he played 35 minutes on the weekend. So he's presumably fit to start. So if we have Reece James, Azpilicueta, Alonso, potentially Saul, who's played a couple of games at left wing back, and I guess Malang Sarr, although he's only played one half at left wing back. Otherwise, he only played when it was a back 4 and at left back. So with those things said, who do you think we should pick? And why do you think that, I suppose?
I was debating which to take it in a comedy route or an actual route. My comedy route was checking which positions Tuchel's assistant coaches have played in their playing career, and unfortunately, none of them are left backs. But I actually think Aspie at left wing back works, and from the tactical perspective, playing a wrong-footed fullback at the wrong-footed fullback does actually have a bit of an advantage defensively. And there's a reason why I would put Azpilicueta there, because if he's playing against Rodrigo, who
is Rodrigo left-footed, mate?
Yes. So very quick, very direct, and left-footed. If he's cutting inside, a right-footed left-back is going to be more able to stop that. Right? Yeah, because you can... Where the reason Pep Guardiola is not playing Kyle Walker at left-back, with Ellis doing Cancelo, to be fair, but the reason it generally doesn't happen is because you're more limited attacking-wise. Like, anyone who watched England and Trippier in the Euros will know Trippier, when he got the ball on the left back, it was going sideways because he didn't really have an angle. So I think you want to get the most out of James attacking because he's the best attacking-wise, and you want to get the most defensively out of Azpilicueta, who's probably maybe still, I guess mentally probably the best defender, not physically anymore, but still made the best of a bad situation. You put Azpilicueta left wing back and James at right wing back.
There you go. Just to explain it to people that might not understand that part of, say, football. I'm not trying to mug you off when I say that. Now, number one, if you're right-footed, you're also more comfortable defending and tackling with your right foot. That doesn't just go for passing the ball.
You could probably demonstrate it on your thing. Drag your play in line.
I could. I mean, like I said, if, say, that's Rodrigo, right, and he always attacks this way, but then cuts, does like a Robin or a Bale, because Aspie's right-footed and it's easier for him to defend with his right foot, it's easy to make that step to block it or to intercept the ball, essentially. But what I will also say in terms of what you just mentioned in terms of Kieran Trippier, when he receives the ball at left back, the reason why wrong-footed players, especially when they're defensive players, are not like exactly their speciality isn't quite dribbling. Usually you dribble the ball mainly with your strong foot. So if your strong foot is the right foot, you have the ball inside. While when Aspie plays here, and he dribbles with his right foot, he can shield the ball with his left foot and body. But if he has it here and he controls it with his right foot, the shielding happens to the byline. The byline can't steal the ball from you, can you? So that's why it's always a bit of a problem when heavily one-footed players play on almost the wrong side. Obviously, with wingers, it's a bit different because they don't always stay quite this wide and they come here. So it's a bit of a different scenario, but that's why that kind of goes for fullbacks. But there you go. We've kind of agreed, all in all, I suppose, that this is probably what to go for. Again, like Pi said, I completely agree. If Tuchel is to pick these two for the two wingback positions, I'm very sure he's going to switch them around. Maybe he will switch them again in-game and put Reece on the right at some point. But yeah, let's get to midfield. Obviously, Alex, more thinking about a midfield 3, even though that midfield 3 includes Mount, who we will probably... probably having a front 3 anyway. Now, let me quickly get this off screen just to get the poll that Pice did on his Twitter up on screen, because I thought it was very interesting. And because I haven't voted yet, because that's why you can't see the results just yet, because I want to quickly explain my decision. Because my decision is simple. Kovacic needs to play. That's the decision. And then you make a decision, who does Kovacic play with the best? And that's not a debate to be had. That's Jorginho. Because when it's Kovacic and Kante, it's poor Kovacic that needs to sit. And what is Kovacic's biggest strength? Running with the ball. When he's the one that has to sit, he can't run with the ball. So if you want Kovacic to be really good, play him with Jorginho, not with Kante. Yeah, I also think it's crazy that my brain is telling me don't play Kante. But that's because Kovacic is the only one in good form. Kante is in poor form. Sure, Kante has this knack of just turning up for huge games. So that's why that's the edge he has. But Kante and Jorginho are both not in great form. The only one that is in good form is Kovacic. So he must start. And the one he's best with, Jorginho, hence why I'm going to vote this. I know this is going to be, quite low down on that thing. But for me, it's just, this sounds like you would outrun Real Madrid's midfield super comfortably, and it probably would in every sense of the word. But will they have the positional discipline to stop Kroos's and Modric's and Casemiro's passing? That's why I'm not sure. And so for me, and I know it sounds crazy, but for me, it's either between this one and this one. But I want to start Kovacic, hence why I'm going for this one. But this is the midfield, mind you, that we essentially battered Real Madrid over 2 legs. Like, it was just for bad strikers. We should have scored 10 goals in these 2 games. Like, we had so many big chances. I don't think I've ever seen Chelsea dominate anyone this much over 2 legs in a knockout. Like, ever. And that includes Europa League, by the way. Which doesn't say a lot for Real Madrid, especially when Alex tells us they're worse this year than they were last year. That was the midfield we had then. So that's why I almost want to give that a chance, but it just feels unfair on Cobo, if I'm honest. Hence why I'll pick that. I might be one of the only few people that will or would do that. I understand. And I understand that people hate me for that. I completely understand. Yeah, Fantasy BJ, exactly. He did get man of the match in both games. I completely agree. And he should start if Jorginho was the one in form. But because it's Cover in form, it's just completely stupid to play Cover with Kante, because Kante then will turn up as a fake number 10 again and leave Kovacic to defend all the time and stop him from making his great runs. And that takes every great bit of ability that Kovacic has out of it. So then you might as well not start Kovacic, which is what I'm saying. If you have to start Kante, it needs to be with Georgie. It just can't be with Cover. Like, I just don't want to see it. Because people will then, we will then sit here tomorrow night and say, Kovac's being quite quiet. And then Price will say, yeah, but he dribbled out of a few situations quite nicely. I'm like, yeah, he did. But nothing really came with that. Because Kante's the one that's playing fake number 10. Which pisses me up anyway. It pisses me off anyway that Tuchel keeps doing that. Can someone just tell Kante he's not a number 10? Someone just needs to tell him that. Tell him in French, tell him in English, I don't care. Whichever language he needs to understand it. Because he needs to stop pretending to be a number 10. Stop it. Absolutely stop it. Pies, it's your poll, so I'll ask you. Do you agree with the people, or what's your pick for midfield?
I mean, one of the reasons why I did this, because I don't really know, because, like, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I think Kovacic is a must-starter in all our games, really, because I think he's been our best midfielder this season. Overall, I think it's not even a debate.
Yeah,
and I think he could. I think he could be fantastic in terms of just obviously just such a generic thing to say, dribbling past anyone, but also like creativity this season. Like even when he came on at the weekend, just so forward-minded, like so energetic. Like I don't know. I always say this is like, I think Kovacic is our best midfielder, but I think he doesn't get into many Champions League teams because Kante seems to play so much. And then you have, because like we're saying, it's between Jorginho and Kante, but like, is it really? Because I think in Tuchel's mind, it's between Jorginho and Kovacic. Because I think he just trusts Kante so much that even after a poor game, even if Kante has 5 poor games and then we have a big game coming up, I almost certainly he's going to start him. Like, I don't know. I think the thing is like, one thing I could counter with saying why you might play Kovacic and Kante is because Madrid have a really slow midfield. So if they play Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric, are they going to be able to, like, even if we get quite on a counter, are they going to be that much to deal with in terms of Kovacic and Kante then tracking back?
They
Like,
probably won't. No. I think you're right. I think it would be okay. I'm more thinking it. If we want Kovacic to be good, you got to
yeah,
let him loose,
I know
and
what
he
you
isn't
mean.
let loose when he plays with Kante.
Yeah, or it's either the opposite. Either both of them just go forward, and then we don't have
Well,
like
that's
any
risky. Then.
midfielders.
that is
Yeah,
risky, but yeah.
is that? But that's what, and I don't like that pivot because that's what I always say. As it starts off, they both go really forward, and then as the game goes on, Kovacic is the one that drops back, which is why I don't like it. So I never usually want to play them two. I mean, they're winning by at least a good 20% plus, which is it's interesting actually that 20% have gone more than they've gone for all three, which is actually what Alex said. Alex said a 3-5-2,
But
which is
not with all three, I don't think.
what do you
But
think,
I mean,
Alex?
we'll
Not
get
three?
his thoughts in a second. But
Okay. Yeah, I'm just really interested to see because like I could see that happening as well, to be honest with you. Even though it's not good for my eyes, or potentially actually no, not for the first leg. I think second leg that might happen
I
if we get a
completely
good
agree. Yeah, if
yeah
we get a good result tomorrow, I think
yeah
second leg
yeah
could
yeah
be all three.
yeah for the second leg I think all three. But this leg, do you want me to go what I think he's going to go with or what I would
Now,
go
what
with?
you want?
What I want is Jorginho and Kovacic because I think it makes the most sense in terms of Jorginho being the one to sit deep, pick up the ball because sorry, Lance, I know you love Loftus-Cheek and I still have some sentiment for him. But oh my god, at the weekend, bro, we was trying to play out the back and I was desperate for Jorginho or someone to come on and just literally Mendy wanted to pass straight every time, but because Loftus-Cheek wouldn't drop in and pick up the ball, we kept having to play it out wide, and it was the most annoying thing ever. And I don't want that to happen with Kovacic and Kante. I think Kovacic would, but I'm not sure about Kante. So I think Jorginho, even for because I know we're going to play out the back, so I think he's important for the build-up, and then I think Kovacic for going forward is better than Kante. That's my reasoning. And fans can counteract that and say, well, Jovicic has been notoriously bad defensively in past, but they've also been very, very, very good before. So
It just depends on the opposition. If Madrid
yeah,
play Valverde, I think Jorginho could be a problem. But if their
yeah.
midfield is as Alex expected to, with Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro, I think Jorginho will be absolutely fine.
So that's what I mean is like that's why I think he's going to pick Kante because in Tuchel's mind, I feel like he covers all bases. Like if Kante needs to be defensive, he needs to
Bro,
be
in
defensive.
Tuchel's mind, it's
Like,
Jorginho Kante anyway. Let's not lie to ourselves. Kovacic doesn't start. Come on.
bro, but then
I'd be annoyed.
that's
I'd be annoyed as well,
criminal,
but we
bro.
know it's going to be that. We
That's
know it.
criminal. If it's Jorginho and Kante, I'm sorry, that's criminal. I can't, bro. The way he was gassing up Cover as well in the press conference, I was like,
That's
I,
probably why he
I
gassed him up as well, because he doesn't want him to feel too bad
oh
because he's not
mate,
starting again.
I just, I can't. Obviously, I'll accept it and stuff, but I just, how do you leave your best midfielder out? But then I guess it goes back to balance. Like this, Jorginho and Kante was amazing in the Champions League last year. So I don't know. I don't know. I think actually he will go with, like you said, yeah. But I would go with Jorginho and Kovacic. It's so hard. I know it's going to annoy me whatever happens tomorrow, unless he plays Jorginho and Kovacic. But it will annoy others because then people will be like, "Why is Kante not starting? Tuchel's stupid." So Tuchel doesn't win tomorrow in this midfield, whatever he chooses, anyway. In my opinion.
Well, he wins after the 90 minutes if we won. Whatever he
Yeah,
went
I
with,
mean, like
if
in
we
the
won,
fans'
he
eyes.
picked the right midfield, whatever he picks.
Yeah,
Um,
in the
but,
fans' eyes, it's like
but,
he doesn't win though for me personally.
yeah, no, especially initially when the lineup comes out.
Yeah.
Clutch, before I go to Alex with this, what's your midfield too? And do you agree that you think Tuchel will pick Georgie and Kante?
I think out of everything we know, there's one certainty in Tuchel's mind. Kante starts when he's fit. That's the only question, is who starts with Kante. Because there's been games where we're like, oh yeah, we don't need to start Kante. Here comes Kante. So I think Kante is guaranteed. It's hard because I think if you have Chilwell, you really don't question that Kante, Jorginho midfield because you're going to have more two defenders and then you're going to have Chilwell going forward. But with Aspie, I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think you're going to need that Kovacic on the field. I think you're going to need that progression. And it's so hard for me not to pick Kante, especially in the Champions League when he's so good. But here's the problem. He's not been good these last few games. Even against Lille, he wasn't good. It was like
The home
won
game he was, in the away game he wasn't.
Yeah, no, he won 3 out of like 15 duels or whatever it was, and it's like that just isn't like Kante. So for me, I think personally I would go. I mean, I agree with Pius. Kovacic is undroppable at the moment. You can't do it. And as far as like a midfield three, I don't think there's any way Mount doesn't start, if I'm honest with you. I really don't. I think Mount is also one of those, if like Kante, pretty much a guaranteed to start. So I think that'll end up filling out your midfield three like Alex wants. But for me, it's Kovacic, Jorginho.
Fair. Now, Alex, what's your thoughts on this?
Maybe it's because I'm not a Chelsea fan, but very simple. You start Jorginho and Kovacic and you bring on Kante in the second half when Madrid tire. Especially since Kante tire. Because what's the point of starting Kante when he played 65 minutes of the weekend against, at first, a fit Madrid team, when you can bring him on maybe even at half time against weakened legs, and then you've got a full fit
Kante. Who would you bring him on for then?
Whoever fits it. I think that's the suitable one. You could bring him on for maybe. I don't think you play. I'm with Pius. I don't think you play Kovacic and Kovacic and Kante. I don't think that works. So counteract each other. So maybe bring him on for Kovacic or one of the front three if Chelsea are winning. But I think Kovacic, Jorginho, I think they're scapegoats. But am I wrong in thinking they're generally quite reliable? Like Jorginho has an odd pass that goes wrong every 20 to 30 games, maybe.
Jorginho just looks really bad when we hit on the counter and he tries to run back or tackle someone and he just fails miserably at it. But I think people sometimes, I know he looks really bad at it, but most players would get run past. Just they don't look as bad, and because players don't get ridiculed for that problem, then it gets highlighted less. That's my personal opinion.
Jorginho looks like he doesn't have knees when he's on the counter attack. Like he sort of looks like a stick man getting caught.
It barely looks like he has legs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I go Kovacic, Jorginho, and then bring on Kante second half.
Fair dues. Now, one shout I will make, and Alex, you can say what you think about that. Because let's say it's Aspie here. I think Clutch made a reasonable point with that. That changes things, especially compared to Chilwell, but also compared to Alonso. Because of that, you, again, just theorizing here, you could almost let neither of them sit, let them both do their thing. You let Thiago do one of those and Aspie do one of those. And then things change almost because it's Aspie. He can do that, and then Thiago can just step up to play DM-ish, not as in proper, but as in-game, in when we're in possession, we can shift it like that if we choose to. And then that could maybe allow cover and... Sorry, this would then be Kante, of course. That would then allow cover and Kante to push, which would then not make Kante make cover worse. That's the only way I could see cover Kante working if we... deploy.
But then your floor is okay. So let's play quite back there. So it's like a back four, like how you just had it.
Yeah.
So as per then push Thiago Silva up as he sees his DM. Okay, so now what happens when 37-year-old Thiago Silva gets counter-attacked?
You have a back three behind him, just like when Jorginho is here.
Yeah, but then how would you rather have a Jorginho there and that's quite pushed up a bit higher? And having to see Thiago Silva get turned, or would you rather keep him in between two centre-backs?
Hence why I picked Jorginho and Kovacic. But I'm saying if you need this to be the two in midfield, that's the only way I can see that being okay.
I guess so.
I think Benzema is going to be dropping deep as well. So Silva
could follow him around anyway. Yeah,
Silva stepping up on him could be a decent idea, because I think Thiago Silva is. I think that'll be a good battle between those two.
Fair enough.
Interesting. So let me put this back to normal. And because somehow we all decided for this, which is a bit crazy. So also for you, yeah, Alex, I know you said bring Kante on, but the fact that we played Georgie Kante last year is not enough for you as an outsider to say, why wouldn't you go with that again?
Yeah, I'm like a really, really big Kante fan. I think love him, everything about him. But I haven't watched many Chelsea games, but all the signs I hear from the people I usually trust on games say he has not been good recently. And I think maybe you just go with, like I said, I think Kovacic and Jorginho are underrated together.
There you go. I do agree with that. The front three, fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you're looking at it, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, maybe Alex has a crazy shout like playing Lukaku here again, but I think in general, it's quite straightforward. I mean, Callum isn't even fit, and we definitely don't want Timo Werner. Timo Werner shouldn't even be in the squad, quite frankly. Like, he shouldn't even be allowed to play with the under-23s. Like, we should just send him, I don't know, to the under-17 team.
It's in Germany.
Hey, let him start for Real Madrid, bro.
Maybe the under-17 wouldn't back out of challenges all the time. Sorry?
Let him start for Real Madrid, I said.
Oh, great shout.
See if we can do a player swap.
He would randomly turn into Ronaldinho at that point. Like, that's just how that would work.
He'd sort of score an own goal by accident.
Bro, I've always
He
said
can't even
this.
hit.
I always said this.
Maybe.
If Werner went to Liverpool, I swear to God he would win Golden Boot. I swear to you. I fucking swear to you. There's something about us.
Yeah.
I heard on the Straight Out Common podcast the other day, it was Simon Johnson saying he watched a clip. There was a clip going around on Twitter of Werner at Leipzig and all the chances, and Simon Johnson probably sitting there saying like, he would have missed that. He'd miss that now. He wouldn't be in that position now. He'd miss this. It's quite frightening how he's dropped off.
I think it's quite easy to explain why Timo Werner isn't good in the Premier League, but I don't know. I feel like everybody plays, like, especially if you're Chelsea. Maybe if he was playing for like a lower team that doesn't like use low blocks, but since you're playing for Chelsea and he has zero technical ability, like at that point he's just pointless.
I think him and Lukaku have the same issue of more like they're not pub footballers. They're just playing like them because they've lost literally all confidence.
And I mean, to excuse them a little bit, more so Lukaku than Werner, because Werner wouldn't be able to control the ball anyway. But our midfield is also so damn slow, and our centre-backs, in terms of not running, in terms of passing. Liverpool managed to not always run against a low block. Liverpool managed to make their Salahs and Manes and Luis Diaz's, they make them run and have space to use their pace. Liverpool managed to do that. It's just we don't manage to do that. That's not the Premier League that stops you doing that. That's us stopping them from doing that. Because we don't play a quick pass forward. We just are incapable of doing that, ever. And that goes for our centre-backs and our centre midfielders and our wing-backs. None of them ever play quick, sharp through ball forwards where anyone could run onto. Of course, none of them make those runs anyway. But of course, they would make the run if they knew those passes were possible. And as much as they're bad at football, especially Timo, they're not completely idiotic. So they understand those passes aren't coming anyway. So we could help them by doing that, but that would also mean we have less possession because we give the ball over too easily, which is why we choose against that, which is fair enough. But that's still partly why both Timo and Lukaku are even more struggling, because we're just so damn slow in how we build football. I mean, people blame Sarri for it. Now no one's saying it, but sure, poor Sarri. Hey, but yeah, unfortunately, this is the front three it's going to be. There's not much of a discussion to be had, is there? I mean, Clutch, I presume you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the only shout is Ziyech on the right. I do like that ability Ziyech brings, but if you're going to have James on that side, you're going to need somebody to overlap, and where Ziyech wants to be, James is probably going to take more of that space, at least in this formation. So for me, obviously Pulisic and Havertz are must. They're our two inform attackers at the moment. Pulisic loves the Champions League. He loves, especially a game against Madrid. So I mean, and Havertz kind of speaks for himself. He's been probably our best attacker the last month or two. And I think Mount brings that intensity in the front. I know a lot of people question his open play assists, but I also think he is a midfielder that he is playing a little bit more forward than he is kind of more comfortable with. But I do think his pressing from the front is one of our best qualities. And I know him and James have a really nice link up. So hopefully this is how it is. We don't see Pulisic on the right because that might happen. But hopefully this is the way it is. And I think we will be able to get a result out of this team.
There you go. Price, I might highlight what you said later anyway, but is that your front three as well?
No, I'd play Ziyech over Mount.
Would you? On what basis? Just because Mount was poor, or because you think Ziyech fitted better?
I'd back that, by the way.
I know. I just think Ziyech for the creativity, personally, and invention. I feel like we might need that tomorrow. I feel like
Where
set
was that
pieces.
on the weekend?
I know. Both played really poor, but I mean, so did most people. To be fair, I think Ziyech as well. Big games. I know Mount's done well in some big games, but um, yeah, I just I don't know. I feel like Ziyech as well, especially picking up the runs from Pulisic. You know those back post runs Pulisic makes, crossing, invention. I feel like he tracks back as well quite well. So I don't really think you can have that argument against him. And I think with what one of you guys said about taking up the same space, I mean, personally, when I've been to the games, watching both of them on the same side, him and James, they actually link up quite well. Personally, I felt like so. I don't know. Tuchel will probably go with Mount, but I would go with Ziyech
Okay.
because I always say Mount is also very good off the bench, and people are so offended by that statement, but he is good off the bench, so you know it's not criminal to bench Mount. I don't think it will happen, but that's what I would do personally.
I have thought about it as well. Like I said, I was on Charlie's channel this afternoon, and I was thinking about it, and I came to my conclusion that Ziyech for the second leg, when Madrid hopefully give us more space, because I think when it's tight, but I kind of can't contradict myself with that in a sense. Maybe it is. Maybe I agree, you know, because maybe they will sit deeper. Probably they will sit deeper at the bridge, and that's when I need Ziyech's long distance shooting more than I need it when we have space. Because unfortunately, the whole when we play on the counter, Ziyech's passing, that comes off too little times per game for that to be enough for me to start him for that reason. I am sorry for any Ziyech fans. For one or two successful passes like that in a game, I'm not dropping man for that. But the shooting off the left foot, that's maybe the only reason why I'd consider it. I'd still probably stick with Mount, just because I actually also thought Mount was better than Ziyech against Brentford, personally. I know a lot of people, I thought Havertz won, aside from the misses, and Mount second was the only acceptable players we had on the pitch. If I'm being perfect. I mean, Mount wasn't acceptable either, but he was closest to it from all the other ones, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I do also understand why you'd call for Ziyech, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But yeah, if it's predicted, I'm, like Pi said, very sure it will be Mount, Havertz, and Pulisic. But Alex, you just said you would agree on Ziyech. On what basis necessarily? Especially considering you were the one that brought up the midfield 3 thing earlier. Of course, Ziyech can kind of drop into an 8 role if necessary, but is probably less comfortable with it than Mount is, I would say. So that's why I'm intrigued why you would pick Ziyech over him in that situation.
Yeah, I'm more 50-50 now that first said that, because I did think about that. Like, if he picks Mount, I think you do get that advantage. But on the other hand, I feel like Real Madrid are going to, as we discussed, I think sit deeper than they did for large parts last year. And I don't know, I think Mount, maybe from what I've seen and what I've heard, at least from the two very distinct camps on Chelsea Twitter, is that he seems to be having a bit less of an explosive season. And I think with a young player like that, maybe it's better to just, in a big game like this, prioritise someone who's got 5 goals and assists across the league and Champions League in 2022 compared to Mount's 4. Someone who's maybe marginally better form. One more, marginally better form. But I know recently I said earlier, like, I don't know how effective Mount is at the moment, and I feel like I know might be a bit of a big game if he was going to be giving a vital impact. Too big to say take him out of the limelight. That's kind of where I'm gearing towards, if that makes sense. Like, if Tuchel really wants to go to the 3-5-2 thing that we discussed, I'd get why he should start Mount, because he'd be geared towards that. But if he's going to try and unlock this Madrid defense, I don't think Mount necessarily deserves or should be starting 100% over Ziyech.
Fair. Before I get to Richard's absolutely mental super chat,
One
last thing on Real Madrid that I'd like to ask you. Whenever I've seen Real Madrid, and it wasn't that often, but I do usually tend to at least watch the highlights. What I have noticed in the games that I have seen is that Alaba sometimes just decides he's now a centre forward or left winger and just runs all the way from centre back and turns up as their most offensive player in the opposition's box. Is that a thing you see him doing tomorrow as well? Because if so, I'm even more in the Mount camp than the Ziyech camp, because Ziyech is going to be too deep to exploit that space that Alaba is going to open up.
I'm not sure. Maybe only if Madrid need a goal. I think that's not necessarily new for Real Madrid. Sergio Ramos did it all the time last year. I think it's a common thing in La Liga where they're trying to unlock a deep defense, and it's just a great way of overloading it. It's like a surprise attack.
I guess it's what Rudiger does when he runs forward like a mad dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrifying. So I don't think it'll happen against Chelsea unless Chelsea are winning and Madrid need a goal.
Fair dues. Let's get to the super chat. I haven't even read it yet. So, Richard, fair play to you. I'm very appreciative. I think our biggest problem right now is that the ball gets stuck in our half, which causes the wing-backs to get stuck defensively, which forces the wingers / number 10s to get stuck deep into the midfield, which leaves the striker isolated with no support. I agree with that, and I think the problem with that is that Reece James was injured and that Ben Chilwell is injured, because the reason why I think our wing-backs get stuck is because they're not our two best wing-backs. When it's Reece James, it's already a bit better, I would say. But yeah, Pice, why don't you reply to what Richard said here as well? Do you agree with that?
I need to read it again. For some reason, when someone sends like a really long message, I have to like read it again and again to process it.
No problem.
So he said, I think our biggest problem is that the ball gets stuck in our half. So I'm not really quite sure what to think of that, actually.
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. I'm just like...
No, because that does make sense. Because
I agree to a point with it.
Yeah, and I think that happens definitely in your big games, right? Like I remember watching against City. Every time I've watched you lose against City, is the wing backs get stuck inside your own half. They get pinned. They're forced to head inside, and the wingers / number 10s have to drop deep to try and get that loose ball, which leaves the striker completely
again,
isolated.
like the ball gets stuck in our own half sometimes because we don't bloody move it quick enough a lot of the time. We literally like that's why when Jorginho plays, like obviously he's the one who constantly offers angles and stuff and forces us to play quickly because he's always calling for the ball. Like I love Thiago Silva, but there's been a lot of times where we could get out of our own half and you know move the ball quicker, in my opinion, personally. Because everyone knows like we try and use our wing backs to get out, so then you need players in the middle to come and collect the ball, and you know if not, you have to just move it fast across your centre backs, try and drag players out of position. So yeah, I agree with it to a point. I think a lot of it is our own doing as well, though. Like we could move the ball so like one touch, like we can do this. It's just a lot of times we don't.
We can 100% do it, and we can do it less when Aspie and Alonso are wing backs, unfortunately. And that's like
personally, I feel like Aspie does move the ball quite quickly, but I don't think Alonso does. Definitely not.
I think they both move it reasonably quickly. I think Alonso's touch is probably the only thing he has. But the problem is neither of them have the confidence to open their body forward. So whenever they receive the ball, they have their body facing backwards. So if they're under pressure, the quick ball is backwards and never forwards. And therefore, because they always do that, they never even get an extra 5 yards, because usually the whole slow passing it out, the advantage you get, you pass it to the left and then he passes it back. In that period where he passes back, he moves up the pitch by like 5 to 10 yards. And then you bring it back round. And then he's a little bit high up already, so you already apply a bit more pressure. Then you swing it back round to the midfielders and the centre backs, and both your wingbacks can push up another bit higher. And that's how you kind of pin them in slowly but surely. But because Alonso and Aspie, they always have their body facing backwards. They don't make those steps enough. And Aspie makes the runs when he has space, but not when we're slowly building. Then he's too deep. And Alonso is even more so a problem because he just cannot handle the fact that he needs to move. Like he's just incapable of it. And he also doesn't own a right foot either, which hampers him on that side, because Chile at least sometimes would use his right foot, not necessarily to pass, but to control the ball or to block the ball from a defender. And Alonso uses his left foot for everything. And I think that just hampers us drastically. Clutch, anything you want to add to that? Otherwise, I'll ask Alex if there's anything else.
No, go ahead. I agree with everything you said.
Fair play. Alex, anything else you would like to add to this super chat here?
No, it's right.
Discussion?
So good. So good.
Fair dues. All right, then. We have our team up on screen, even though we're undecided on one spot in terms of the right forward, right inside 10, whatever you want to call it. So one last thing that is remaining to do, not a good sentence, but here we are. Score predictions. Now, what I will say is, I really dislike two-legged things because, like, you know, either tomorrow is dead and it doesn't matter. Like, it's 0-0 tomorrow and then we're just hyped for nothing because we just need to do it all over again the week after. Or we win and then we say we win 2-1. It doesn't mean anything because we could throw it away next week. So I hate two-legged affairs. Can we not just do everything, I don't know, play everything in a neutral ground? Now I'm joking. But no away goals. Meaning Real Madrid are probably, or away goals rule, meaning Real Madrid are even less likely to go for it. Hence why, in terms of score prediction, you know what, this time I'll go with you first, Alex. I presume you agree that would mean it's more likely to be a rather low-scoring game?
On the first leg. Yeah, and that's how they played it against PSG. No one might remember, because it was so boring that first leg. Besides the Mbappe moment of magic, Madrid was so happy to play to the second leg. The first leg's at the bridge, right? So I'm tempted to go 1-0 Chelsea. I think I'm quite confident in that. And then maybe in the second leg, a goal at the Bernabeu, but overall Chelsea will still go through.
There you go. I mean, obviously, because it's late night kickoffs, I'm not sure whether it'll be possible, but maybe we'll try to get Alex on the player ratings of the second leg, just so, you know, we have a pre-opinion and after both legs opinion. If we can make that happen, obviously, we'll talk about it the next week. But 1-0, I mean, I'd hope for more, but a win's a win. So I take it. Clutch, what's your score prediction?
I think in the first leg, Chelsea really go for it. I think that's the way Tuchel kind of sees it. He would rather defend in the second leg rather than having to put a team out in the second leg. So I think he'll put a team out to really go for it, and I think we'll get up to, I'm going to say 2-0.
Fair. Place?
Yeah, also my score prediction was 2-0. I trust us at home enough defensively, even though everyone's going to say 4-1, but whatever. Overall, I think I trust us enough. So, especially going back to the back three, you know what? I'm not even going to say just 2-0. I'm not saying anymore. Yeah, as I said, I think we've got to go for it. We've got to be on the front foot. The team that's away first, I usually, you know, I want us to play away first and come at home second leg. I always think that's a massive advantage. But I mean, with Chelsea's defence and the way Tuchel sets up, sometimes away from home, I mean, you've enough to look at Man City at the Etihad. I know we didn't play great, but I mean, we had Alonso and Sarr on the left-hand side in the back five or back three, and we only conceded one goal. So, I mean, I'm not as worried about the Bernabeu as everyone else. But for this leg, I think 2-0. I think if we're going to go with goal scoring predictions as well, who's going to score? I think Reece James is going to score. I've got a feeling, and Reece and Havertz are going to score.
Fair. I'm going to say I'm undecided between 2-0 and 2-1. My head says 2-1, so that's what I'm going to say. Just because I feel like we're not, especially whoever plays left wing back, whether it's Aspi, whether it's Reece James, whether it's Alonso, either they're not used to the position or they're just bad. So that's different to last year. And even last year we conceded one. So I feel like we'll concede one. I'm hoping we'll get 3, but I think with expecting Real Madrid to be a little bit more on the defensive side, I think it's unlikely that we'll get 3, especially with our tendency to at least miss 1 or 2 quite big chances a game. But yeah, I'll say 2-1. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round it out here. I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm very excited. I'm very thankful to Alex for sharing his wisdom and giving us his time. Mate, appreciate you very much for coming on. Everybody follow him on TikTok and of course on Twitter as well.
And Chelsea 365 Passes website are right on there, and it's a very good place. I thought I'd shout that out as well.
Yes, bro.
Exactly. Alex does also write on CFC Pice's website, which is also down in the description. Like you said, chelseafc365.com. And of course, also check out Clutch's Twitter, which is also linked down in the description. If you're still here, I appreciate you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So please do subscribe. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Every new subscriber counts. So please hit that big red subscribe button down below. Smash the like button for me. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's hope we can meet again tomorrow night and be all in a great mood. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea.
Wait, Laurenz, one more thing. You've just got another $20 donation.
Have I?
Just before the stream ended, yeah.
Oh, big up Richard.
It hasn't even showed up for me yet. There it is. Thank you, Richard. We love you. He says, Pulisic with the hat trick, like he will have against England in the World Cup. All love.
Okay, no, fuck off, Richard. No.
All right, yeah, off you go. Goodbye.
Right,
I
goodbye.
back you both. Come on, Pulisic. Score a hat trick against England.
Shut
What
up,
the
Richard.
fuck, Laurenz? You can't be doing that.
Of course I can.
No,
Especially because flipping Southgate is not going to play any of the Chelsea players anyway. So,
The longer this conversation goes on, more likely I'm going to play It's Coming Home Down the mic and get you copyrighted.
Richard,
There's
I have
enough
to go. He's
donations
gonna ruin
anyway.
it all. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. And we'll see you next time.